comes from our brains, yet our brains are illogical. Make that make sense to me. In all seriousness, sometimes being alive feels more like burden than gift. And I hate that I feel that way. Like, I say those words out loud, and I hate that I say them because I don't want that to be true. Because I don't actually believe that that is true. But I feel that way sometimes. And having your thoughts and your feelings on a completely different page of life is a really difficult thing to figure out what to do with. I thankfully don't feel that way nearly as often as I used to. And I think for the most part, that is because I have discovered and continue to use a series of strategies that makes existence a lot more tolerable for me. Now, these strategies are specifically designed for people who experience things like depression, anxiety, or other mood or anxiety disorders, because those add some layers of complexity to what it takes to take care of ourselves. And that's, so much of what we talk about on this channel, on this podcast, is essentially how to take care of yourself as a person living with one or more mental illnesses, because it is more important, but also more difficult to take excellent care of yourself if you have a chronic mental health condition or multiple chronic mental health conditions. So more important than your heart, which means we are probably going to need a special set of strategies, a different rule book than what most of humanity has to play by in order to, kind of make it to the end of the day and make ends meet, in order to be sustainable, in order to live in a way that we can get up and do it tomorrow, the day after, and the day after. Before we get into the 3 strategies I want to define for you today, I want to make sure we're clear what it is I am talking about, because this is a little bit different than just like, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm unmotivated. This is like, I don't completely care to be alive today. Like, I'm indifferent to existence right now. I'll give you a silly example of this. Well, it's not silly. The subject matter is kind of silly, but it's a very serious feeling. One of the biggest, I guess I would say, fights that I ever got into with my mom, and there were more of them than there should have been. Sorry, Mom. One of the biggest fights I ever got into with my mom was, of all things, over parking brake. They still live, they kind of live on a hill. And so once multiple children in the home had vehicles, a lot of us had to park on the street, which means we were parked on the hill with our cars just like pointing downhill, right? And my mom noticed that I didn't set my parking brake. And I think it was breakfast, one morning at breakfast, she assumed I didn't know how, which I don't think I did, that's not the point. She was giving me instructions on how to set the parking brake. And I'm like, 17 or something in the story. And I said something along the lines of like, Mom, I don't care. And she thought I meant like, I don't care how to learn the parking brake. And so she was trying to explain to me like, if you don't set the parking brake, your car might roll downhill and like crash and become not operational. So you should care because bad things will happen to you and your belongings if you don't do this thing. She didn't understand, and I don't blame her because this doesn't make a lot of sense if you've never experienced it. She didn't understand what I meant when I said I don't care. I didn't mean I don't care because I don't understand that if I don't do this, I might not have a car. What I meant was, I don't care about anything that happens in my life. I don't care if I have a car. Because pretty much the only things that I use my car for are to go to work and to go to school. I don't care about any of those things. I don't care what happens to me. I don't care what my future is. I don't care if this works out or not. Like, I am not enjoying life, and I'm not having a good time. And so the idea of losing something that enables me to do the life things that I don't care to do is really not scary to me. And that's what I meant when I said I don't care. I just did not want to do anything at that point in my life. I was indifferent about whether or not I actually wanted to live or die, but I didn't want to participate in life. I didn't want to participate in society. I didn't want to be a part of the world. It's okay being alive in theory. I just didn't want to do any of the things that I had to do to make that sustainable long term. I wanted to just opt out of all the things. And for a long time, I basically did that. I did literally the absolute bare minimum level of functioning a person can do to not just die of self-neglect, basically. And that's all I did for years because I didn't see a purpose or a value in doing anything more than that. Like I said, that is not something I experience very often these days. So today I'm going to share with you the 3 most important things I have learned on my journey from there to here. I believe have helped me stay out of that mindset and stay in a place where I generally don't mind being alive and doing, basic self-care things. So the first rule that I try to live by is I try not to live only for myself. This, I think, was the biggest mistake that I was making at that point in my life. There are many reasons that I don't think we should live only for ourselves. And let me just, before I get to the reasons, let me acknowledge something with that. I understand that might be very frustrating to hear. I think I remember people telling me things like that when I was in that place in my own life. And I remember hating it. Because I remember thinking something along the lines of I am miserable. I don't know how I'm supposed to find enjoyment or fulfillment or satisfaction in this life. No one else seems to know how I'm supposed to do these things either. I feel like it's unlikely that anyone figures it out for me. But if anyone's going to figure it out, I am probably the most likely candidate. I need to focus on myself to figure those things out. And so you're telling me I shouldn't do the only thing that I think might get me out of this. And I'm not saying you shouldn't think about yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't care about yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't live in a way that helps you. In fact, I absolutely believe you should do all of those things, but you shouldn't do only those things. And there are many reasons for that. Perhaps the biggest one is if you have a cyclical mood disorder, no matter what you do, how hard you try, how disciplined you are going to hit times when you don't matter to you. That's part of depression, and it's part of anhedonia, is you don't care how good your life is. You don't care how much stuff you have. You don't care how many people love you. Because if your ability to emotionally connect with all of those things outside of yourself can vanish, at least temporarily, at a moment's notice, then you cannot solve this problem by stacking as much of those things as possible. Those things will help you during a better phase of life, when you're feeling relatively good, when you're not in the midst of a crippling, severe depressive episode. Those things are great. They're wonderful, and they give you motivation, they give you joy, they make you want to keep going. But what about the times when you can't feel them? What about the times when throwing all your time and energy only into yourself basically feels like throwing coins into a black hole rather than like a wishing fountain? That was a weird metaphor, you guys know what I mean? Sometimes inside, we just become this black hole, and no matter what you put into it, it just disappears. It just gets sucked into the void. And so if that's where everything you have is going, as many times as that does nothing for you. So if that's all you have, you're going to need to expand that.
If you've been injured in a recent car accident that wasn't your fault, I'm going to show you how I got this $100,000 check, my car replaced, and my life back on track for free, and how you can too in 30 seconds or less without ever having to plead your case to a greedy attorney who really doesn't care. So